Hello and welcome to the session today about imposter syndrome, something that lots of people struggle with, lots of people experience, and it can be really debilitating. So wanted to come on and talk to you today about my experiences with imposter syndrome, the reason that we have it in the first place, and the things that we can do about it. So first of all, let me start off by introducing myself. I'm Sarah Wilson and I am a leadership coach. I support people who are carrying negative thought patterns from past experiences with toxic relationships. So those can come from childhood, workplace bullying, and relationships with partners, some of which I've had experience in all of those. And it's about carrying that heavy weight. So for me now, my past experiences I describe as the rich tapestry of who I am today. But for a lot of people, and certainly for me in the past, a past version of me, imposter syndrome was this really heavy burden that I had carried from things that had been created in childhood onto me and how I showed up in the world and how I showed up as a person. And my life now is 360 degrees of difference. And I want to get my message to as many people to try and help them. So thank you so much for watching today. So one of the biggest questions that we ask ourselves is, who am I? And we don't necessarily consciously ask it, but we're always fighting to try and find who we are, where we fit. And when you are younger and at school, it quite often feels like you don't fit anywhere. I was bullied at school, not in my first school. Like when I moved to my second school, I don't even think I knew that bullying was a thing. But when I moved to my second school, I was really badly bullied because I was different, and kids like to find and pick on the thing that's a bit different. So I had a very northern accent, which obviously you can't tell now because they were successful and completely bullied that out of me. But of course, when you carry a negative dialogue with you into your life now, but you are trying to kind of get your message out into the world and share who you are and be more open and find your tribe, it can feel so massively isolating. And so when I started my coaching journey, I did have thoughts like, who am I to bring my message to the world? Who am I to share my past experiences? Who am I to talk about what I've experienced and help people to see that it can be different? Who am I to share the experiences that I've had and make out like that makes me an expert? Who am I to try and lead the way to help other people? Because there are lots of people who are struggling with what they want to do. Who am I to be visible and come and do webinars and go live on LinkedIn and write about what's going on for me in blogs and posts and so many different things? Who am I to say that I can support others? And that question can completely cripple you. It can completely stop you from doing anything or taking any action or doing anything to change your little part of the world. So whenever we have fears and worries, they quite often come with a question. And the question quite often links back to, who am I to be doing this? And when you want to share something and you want to share your experience with other people, the weight of other people's judgment is immense, and it feels like it's something that is insurmountable, and that if you get it wrong or you say something that upsets somebody, that is going to be the worst thing that ever happens to you. But the reality is that if you are willing to put yourself out there, there are going to be some people who don't like what you've got to say. They don't like what you stand for. They don't like to hear about your experiences. And one of the biggest things is being okay with that. Like, I don't like everybody, and so why should I expect everybody to like me? Now, I don't know if it's a 40s thing. I think it might be. So lots of people said to me when I was on the run up to my 40th birthday, when you get to 40, you won't care. You won't give a monkeys anymore what people think. I was so excited for that to happen because I was so heavily weighed down with what other people thought of me. I needed that external validation. And I can recognize that now, that external validation is needed when it's been an unmet need in childhood. And certainly for me, that was the case. So I needed to know that other people were happy with what I was doing. You know, when I was younger, I needed to get my parents' approval to do things. I needed to make sure that I was getting likes and engagement and things like that. And I needed somebody else to tell me that I was doing a good job, that I was doing the right thing. And if somebody turned around and said, that's rubbish, or you shouldn't be doing that, and what have you, I would really, really, really take it to heart. But the reality is that you can change your corner of the world. No matter what has happened for you or how you feel, you can change your tiny corner of the world. And if everybody focused on just their little corner of the world, and if that message got bigger and went to a wider audience, brilliant. So who am I became a massive question when I started my business. Who am I became a massive question years and years and years ago. Like, I'm not good enough to be somebody's friend. I'm not good enough to pass this test. I'm not good enough to fit in with these people. I'm not good enough to enjoy anything, this holiday, this downtime, anything at all. And imposter syndrome should be something that is under control. It should be something that is just a sign that you are pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. It should not be this massive, all-encompassing feeling that you might have, feeling like, I'm just a fraud, I'm just an imposter. And do you know what? One day somebody's going to find out, and then it will all go really horribly wrong for me. So when you find yourself asking those sorts of questions, like, who am I to do this, and who am I to do that, and who am I to think that I can have happiness in my life, really take some time to note that you have even had that thought process, and give it some time to have a think about it. Because quite often with fear and catastrophizing and overthinking, we ask ourselves questions, but we don't ever dig into the answer. So when I do my keynote speech, there is one section at the very beginning where I get everybody to stand up, and the audience stands up, and I put a screenshot on a slide on the screen, just saying, have you experienced any of these things? And there are 5 different boxes there. One is a lack of emotional support as a child. One is some sort of loss as a child, not necessarily somebody dying. It could be divorce, it could be moving away, anything like that. Growing up too quickly, a toxic relationship with somebody in your childhood, or bullying. And I asked the audience to stand up and then show that slide. And then if anybody doesn't resonate with any of those things, I ask them to sit down. And the last time I did it was the first time nobody sat down, probably about maybe 60 to 80 people in the room, I suppose. And so what I'm drawing from that is that everybody has a story. Everybody has an opportunity in their childhood to have captured, I'm not good enough in some way. Because if you didn't have an emotional support from, let's say, your parents or one of your parents, you know, you can then carry a story of, gosh, I'm not even good enough for my parent to support me. Who else is going to? A loss of somebody, people I love don't stick around. Growing up too quickly, like, if you are in a situation in your childhood where you were expected to maybe be a young carer, or your sibling had significantly more needs than you, and so you were kind of like left to one side and what have you, again, that's going to bring that story of not being good enough. Not for everybody. Like, some of these things happen and people just go, it was what it was, and it doesn't affect you. What I'm talking about is when you take the story and you continue to carry it, and you continue to find the evidence that that is a situation, that you are not good enough just as you are. And actually what happens then is during this, you see then actually everybody around you has a story as well. Everybody around you has had challenge and difficulty, and what have you. And so when you're young, you don't even question these sorts of elements. You just go along with it. That's what you think, and that must be the truth, because it's a thought, and you think it. And that's all our beliefs are thoughts that we think are true. So then you have your added layer of experience. So you've brought those things through as a child, you've brought them into adulthood, and you've had lots of different experiences. And for the most part, if you've got a feeling of not being good enough, or you've got imposter syndrome, what you will then fixate on is the evidence that that is true. So you will fixate onto everything that is true. So your relationships will evidence it. It's kind of like looking on the internet. If you want to find research to support your views on anything, you will find on the internet stuff that supports it and stuff that is the polar opposite and completely disagrees with it. So you get to choose. You get to choose which one of those that you decide to go for. And for the most part, as humans, we like to feel that we are right and that we are correct in our knowledge. So in that case, we will just stick with this evidence that supports our story. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant. That's our belief. That's what we will use the evidence to support. And it's the same with our thought processes. So you can train your brain to find the amazing, brilliant, and focus on the great qualities about you, but you can also train your brain to berate you all the time, to put yourself down, to have self-doubt, to overthink, to catastrophize. You have a choice. And I never used to think that was the case. I always used to think my cards are dealt and there is nothing that I can do about it at all. But actually what you find out is that as a child, you don't question the things that you think. You don't question an adult's attitude or behavior or anything, certainly not at that stage. And you just want to fit in. Like every kid wants to fit in. It's why school uniform exists, for example, although contentious issue, don't get me started on that really. So it's really important to understand that as a child we are trying to find our tribe. We are trying just to fit in and get on and not be bullied, because kids focus on something different. What we end up doing is just trying to fit in, and we don't realize until much later, if at all, that actually standing out is pretty great. Being unique and being wholly unapologetically you is the greatest gift that I've ever given myself, is just to be me. So when I was younger, I tried very hard to be who I thought the person who I was with wanted me to be. So I would be a certain person with my parents. I'd be a certain person with my best friend. I'd be a certain person with this other group of friends. I'd be a certain person with my boyfriend, but not the same person as with that boyfriend. No. Let's keep me on my toes constantly by trying to sort of mold into what I think other people wanted from me. And it was the same with my work colleagues. And the reality was I didn't fit in with any of those people, and I tried really hard, which was quite icky. Like, people know when somebody is trying way too hard, and it's yuck. So what happens is you don't nail being any of these other people that you've created at all. You actually exacerbate and make your situation much worse. So if you were just to be unapologetically you would actually attract your tribe and feel much happier and much better all the time. Like, I'm not saying you would never ever have a curveball or something that challenges you, but there is just something about finding your tribe and being happy with who you are and what you have to offer that literally changes your life. So in terms of who am I to think this thing, who am I to say this thing, who am I to behave in this way, who am I to share, other people feel the same way as you. Like, I know that having that feeling and that fear is incredibly isolating. But one thing that I found in starting my own business and starting to talk about my experiences is you then attract those people who have had those experiences. They start to become your tribe. So if you have had a challenging childhood as you've grown up, a challenging relationship with your mum, you know, whatever it is. I went out with a group of ladies yesterday. It was the first time that we had been out together. We belonged to the same choir, and I wanted to set up some sort of community for people to get together. So we arranged to have a walk along the seafront and get some chips. Really, really simple, really straightforward. And in the end, actually, it was really windy. So we decided to go inside somewhere to have like some snacks and what have you. And we got talking about, you know, what we do and what have you, and people were asking questions about what I do. I was telling them I was a leadership coach and this is who I help. And there were 5 of us, including me, and 2 of those people went, yeah, I had a really challenging relationship with my mum as well. It's like it's out there everywhere. And anything that you find, so if you've ever been to buy a new car, when you've chosen what car you're having, you see that car all the time. It's not that suddenly the universe decided to put more of those cars on the road. It's that you just weren't tuned into it at all before. And so the more you share the experiences that you've had that have shaped who you are, the more you will find your tribe, because you'll have other people who've experienced similar things. And therefore, they properly understand, like, there's a difference between empathy from somebody who can feel for you and empathy from somebody who has had the same or similar lived experience to you and really knows what it's like on the coal face. So the more you are you, the more you'll attract those people, even though that process, starting that process, is one of the most frightening things ever, you know, because actually what you've got to realize is, who am I? And if you've constantly molded yourself to being who you think everybody else wants, then that in itself is a piece of work to kind of work through. What makes me happy? What makes me light up? What makes me, you know, feel great about everything? What makes me feel happy? What makes me feel abundant? What makes me feel fulfilled? Ultimately, what sparks joy in my life? And that was the first part that I started with my own personal development journey, which is a Sparks Joy list, a list of all the things that made me happy. And my goodness, it took me weeks to even manage to cover one side of A5 with that particular list. But it helped me to realize how little I knew myself and how important knowing yourself is in finding your happiness in life. So it was a massive deal, even though the actual task itself is quite straightforward. What came out behind that was much bigger. And I really had to question myself then when I was with other people. Do I really want that, or am I just saying it? Am I just trying to be somebody that they think that I want to be? And no, actually, it's brilliant to just have that time to really start to focus on what it is that lights you up, what it is that's really important for you. So if you feel isolated in your experience, please understand that lots of other people feel the same way you do. And the more openly we can talk about our thoughts, our feelings, and our experiences, the less isolated we would feel, the more we would attract our tribe, and the better people's mental health would be, because we would know that there are lots of people out there with shared experience. We would know that we are not alone in what we're experiencing and feeling. We know that we have got people who might be a little bit further along the road than us, but we also know that there are going to be people who are a little bit further behind where we are. And imposter syndrome, realistically, is simply the feeling that you don't belong in the space that you're in, that you can't, for whatever reason, be the person that you really want to be, or that you are fulfilling a role that at some point somebody's going to realize is not really you. And that's really scary. That's a really scary feeling to have. So if you sit and work out what your timeline is as things have gone on through your life, you'll start to get a better understanding about where your imposter syndrome comes from. So when I was younger, when I was really little, I had a great relationship with my parents. We did everything together. We were a little unit. My memories of my early childhood are really super happy. And then the only thing that I remember shifting is I would start having one-on-one time with my dad and not like go out with mum and stuff in the afternoon at a weekend. Like my dad would take me to the park and my dad would take me on a little walk or an adventure of some description, but my mum wouldn't come. And as I got older, I realized that we weren't this little unit anymore, and that it wasn't even me and dad, it was just me and then mum and dad. Very confusing relationship with them. My dad really didn't know how to handle things. My mum was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and she really struggled with that. My dad really struggled with that, but his response to that was to put his head in the sand. And so my mum came to me for a lot of emotional support from probably when I was about 10, maybe, onwards. And of course, I didn't have the understanding and the knowledge and the experience and the wisdom to be able to support her. And she utilized me for her support, but she also utilized me as a bit of an emotional punch bag as well. So when things weren't good and what have you, and I get now, very bitterly unhappy person, but I became a very angry teen. I then had very toxic relationships in my adulthood that led to me having an abusive marriage. I experienced workplace bullying and harassment. And, you know, it's a really challenging time. And I look back now and I can see how that would have continued in the same cycle had I have not taken control and decided that I wanted things to be different. And I did that with still quite a deeply entrenched belief that actually I couldn't just be me. I had a deep entrenched belief that my cards were dealt. Somebody else chose who I was going to be, not me. I just had my hand dealt to me and I had to play that hand, and there was no stick or twist until I realized that perhaps there was. And the more I explored that, the more I got curious about it, the more I focused on my, not my influence, what's the word I'm looking for? I was focusing wholly on my son. I didn't want him to think that my experience had to be his experience too of life. I wanted something really different. Inspiration, that's the word I was looking for. So you focus very much on your inspiration and what it is that makes you want to change, because there are days where you don't want to do the work. There are days where you're not interested in what other people think, and what have you, in terms of if I'm just going to go back to where I was before today, then so be it. And doing the work is sometimes you're just sometimes going to say, I don't want to do the work today, and that's okay. You don't undo everything you've done, you just press the pause button for that day, and it just delays sort of things happening. But you probably are going to miss days of kind of doing the work and working through this with curiosity. One of the biggest things that changed for me, apart from becoming 40, oh, that's what I was talking about. So becoming 40, nothing changed. I got to 40 and 1 day old and was like, oh, somebody lied to me about how it changes. But actually, by the time I was 41, it had shifted. Nothing catastrophic had happened. No conflict had happened. I had just stepped back from some people who didn't step towards me. And so they kind of exited out of my life. One of the biggest things more recently that's given me a lot of answers is neurodivergency. And I recognize a lot of the traits in myself. And for the most part, I've got really good masking now. And by masking, I don't mean pretending to be somebody else. I just mean that when I have a specific symptom come up, there's probably something that I have created to kind of help myself to be able to move past it. And it gave me a lot of answers as to why I had behaved the way that I have in my life and why my thought processes are such, you know, like it's beyond being empathetic. It is feeling so incredibly deeply, particularly when it's like rejection related and what have you. That for me is probably one of the biggest challenges I have. So looking curiously at my life and really starting to understand who I was as a person and what was going on for me and why I'd made some of the choices that I had, helped me to see that although I hadn't become an expert on it, I was much further ahead than other people. And obviously, as my journey continues, I become further ahead than lots of people. And so for some of those people, they will be so far back that I don't resonate with them. But for the people who are 3 or 4 steps behind me, I'm the perfect person to help them because I've got lived experience of what they're feeling and what they're thinking. Not exactly the same as theirs, because everybody's experience and model of the world is slightly different, but enough to say, do you know what? I can help you. I can help you get from where you are to where I am. Come over here. It's great. I love it. And so it's not about suddenly being the most expert person in whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's just acknowledging that there are other people who are struggling a little bit and can come over and join you on the happy side. Because the more personal development work I've done, the happier I become. The more warm, fuzzy moments I have, the more accepting I am of who I am, the more I say, you're all right, thanks, if somebody doesn't like me. Like, that simply doesn't bother me anymore. So if you have got a feeling of not being good enough, then it's time to get curious about what that looks like and how you might change it. So first step, create your timeline. Work out from literally birth to, hold on one second, just need to cough. Always keeping it real, no editing here. So if you don't feel good enough and you create your timeline and you put in your timeline when certain key things happened in your childhood, you'll start to find the root cause. Once you know where a thought or feeling comes from, you can look at it from an adult perspective and make a decision about what you want to do with that information. Does that situation help me? What do I want to experience instead? When I experience this trigger, what do I want my response to be? So you can then, once you know where the root is for this particular thing that you think and feel, you can then unpick it. And when you say unpick, I used to think unpicking would be huge amounts of work, but no, just the knowledge that you're doing that is enough to help to dilute it and start to dissipate that feeling. And over a period of time, you'll realize that it fades. You'll realize that it becomes translucent. You'll realize that it's kind of there, but it's now blended into that rich tapestry that is you. It doesn't need to cause you the level of difficulty that it's causing you, but you need to find the root in order to then treat that situation the way that you would like to, and to make a change about how you would like to experience that moving forward. So what do you want to let go of? When you think about the things that you want to let go of, what you need to be looking at are 4 key categories. So your thoughts. So your thoughts are quite often, I am, I'm not, I can't, I can only. They're quite often I statements, but they are just thoughts, pieces of script that you have brought into your intelligence and that you utilize on a regular basis. So feelings, those are the sorts of things about emotions. So they are anxiety, fear, overthinking, catastrophizing, all of those sorts of things. Those all kind of come into your feelings, but also some of those tie into behaviors. So when a feeling happens, it triggers this behavior in me. So that might be snapping at other people. It might be withdrawing. It might be overthinking and catastrophizing. They kind of cross over. It might be that you just want to be left alone. It might be a number of other things. But once you start to realize where all of your different elements come from and how you behave as a result of them, you can then start to unpick them. And again, with physical symptoms. So maybe one of the things you want to let go of is that bubbly feeling in your tummy when you get nervous or anxious. Maybe it's migraines. Maybe it's constant infections of some description and what have you. Your physical health is directly linked to your mental health. So your mental health will give you a ton of clues that you can either pay attention to or completely ignore before going, right, You're not stopping. You're not getting the hint. You're not getting the message. So now you'll be off with a really heavy cold for a week where you will just stop because you're not paying attention to all the signs and symbols that we're giving you to say that you need this level of support. So once you have got a list of the thoughts, the feelings, the behaviors, and the physical symptoms of what you want to let go of, what you'll find in front of you is a list of things that you probably focus on quite heavily. So you will focus on the fact that I feel anxious a lot of the time. I feel fearful. I feel like I'm a rabbit in the headlights. I feel that I'm not good enough. That still continues. I hear my mum's voice in my head still kind of telling me that I'm not good enough. I get snappy at people. I withdraw. I take my anger out on other people. I cry. All of these things, you'll end up with this list of the things that are probably the things that you put your attention onto. But of course, what you focus on grows. So if you focus on the fact that you are feeling really challenged by lots of these situations, all that you're really going to manifest in that is more of those feelings. You'll be focusing on the lack side of things, and the lack doesn't go away by you focusing on it. The lack just makes you feel more lacking. It's not beneficial in any way, shape, or form. So the best thing to do is to then switch it. So instead of feeling anxious, what do you want to feel? Do you want inner peace? Do you want contentment? Do you want calmness? Do you want level-headed? What is it that you want? And what you do is you work out for each individual word what you want instead, and then get rid of the words, get rid of all the information of what you don't want, and just focus on what you want instead. So instead of focusing on I'm so anxious all the time, you focus on I'm trying to find inner peace. So it helps you to then think about the actions that you might need to take and the things that you might need to change in order for you to feel happier and more contented and have that motivation that completely disappears when you have imposter syndrome. So once you have got a list of all of the things that you want to focus on instead, you can focus on all the great things about you. So based on the fact you're watching this, probably nobody has ever told you that you are absolutely enough. You are absolutely good enough to be doing whatever it is that you want to be doing. The difference between the people doing the things that you would like to do and where you are right now is one thing, and that is belief. Those people believe that they can go and do this thing. That's it. That's all that's different. And let's say that you're at work, for example, and people just keep getting promoted above you. And the chances are you'll look at those people and go, why? Why did they get that job? I can do that job better than they can, yet they got the job. And really, all it comes down to is that person believes more than you do that they can do that job. That's why they did all of the things like the application and putting themselves out there and having confidence in the interview to be able to present themselves in the best way possible. Belief. There'll be some people out there who are doing a job at the higher level than you, who are pretty shocking in comparison to what you can do. You are enough. You just need the self-belief in order to move that forward. And self-belief does not get handed to you on a platter. Nobody turns up one day and goes, here's your self-belief, now go out there and achieve all the things that you want to achieve. You have to find your inspiration, and behind your inspiration is your motivation, and you need to do the work. You need to do the inner work that helps and supports you to move forward. You are a unique gift. There is nobody on this planet who can be you. So be you, because that's what you've got. Being you is the most important thing that you can do with your whole life, because everything else falls into place when you start to really embrace who you are. If you're focusing on lack of time, lack of money, lack of presence, lack of intelligence, you will create more of that feeling. If you focus on finding inner peace, finding calm, doing well, being successful, that's what you will attract more of those feelings about how that might be for you, and more of those experiences that lead you to whatever it is that you desire and what you want. You are enough, just as you are. We are overstimulated all the time. We have, and I'm sorry guys if any men are watching this, women have more hats to wear than men do. I am absolutely sure of that, absolutely certain of that. We have more to do. Most people that I speak to who are in a relationship will either admit or say that it is the woman who is the operations director of that household. Always. She does all the planning. My husband has this absolutely irritating response to it. But you like doing all of those things. Okay, yes, I do like doing planning and things like that, but not necessarily all the live long day, not necessarily right now. And it doesn't mean that there's nothing you can do. So, yes, women are the ops directors. We are the primary caregiver. We sort out the babysitter. We sort out childcare during the holidays. Not during the holidays, during when we're working and the kids have got school holidays. We do all of those things. We are the ones who go, don't forget that such and such has got swimming after school. We are the ones who prepare the swimming bag ready for the after school swimming. And that's just being a mum. Then you've got other things as well, like being a wife and having a career and having hobbies and, you know, a bit of downtime here and there. There is a lot for us to juggle. And it's no wonder that we're overstimulated, even more so with the interactions that we have with social media. And I really, really hate the fact that I am so attached to my phone, but I don't quite know what to do about it because my business is essentially run from my phone and my laptop. And so it becomes very difficult because I kind of have to be on call a little bit and what have you. But equally, I know that sometimes I scroll reels for ages. Like I went to bed early last night and ended up scrolling reels for about an hour instead of actually stopping and getting some sleep. So when you think about all of the things that are going on, cut yourself a bit of slack. You know, one of the biggest parts of changing is self-compassion. Self-compassion that it's okay to feel like this. It's okay to have this experience. It's okay. It is just okay. It's fine. You're fine. So having imposter syndrome, it's really important to start to find the things that you want to focus on instead, the parts of you that you like, the parts of you that you want to enjoy, the reasons why it's okay for you to be in that position, why it's okay for you to write that thing, why it's okay for you to add that on social media. You know, we think far too much about what other people think about us. And actually, for the most part, other people are just thinking about how other people feel about them. So they're probably not even focusing on the thing that you think they're going to think about you. Oh, how many times can I say think in the 2-minute sentence? So whatever your situation, you will find that you have got a set of symptoms, a set of triggers. And let's just say, for example, that those for you are overthinking, anxiety, fear, and negativity. Okay. So the first thing is to make sure that you are catching yourself doing those behaviors, and just catching yourself and being aware of them helps massively to dilute them and for them not to feel quite as strong, because you can go, I see what you're doing. I know what you're doing. I can see it right now. And that's enough often for your feeling just to go, okay, then, because it's been heard and it's been seen. And it's so used to being ignored. So if you actually don't have that, then great. Now, I think everybody should have a good day, bad day plan. What does that mean? So this is something I picked up during my time in social care, when I was working in policy and social care. And clients who were really looked after with great care quite often had a good and a bad day care plan. And all that is on a good day, what am I likely to think? What am I likely to feel? What am I likely to behave? And what are my physical symptoms like? So those 4 again. And on those days, on a good day, how do I want to be treated by other people? What do I want to do on those days? What do I not want to do on those days? And you end up with like a view plan of, this is a good day for me, and this is how I want to enjoy a good day. And when I say day, it was just a phase. So it could be an hour, it could be 4 days, whatever that phase looked like. But day was just like an easy thing. But we would then also do one on a bad day. So on a bad day, how is this person thinking? How am I thinking? How am I feeling? How am I behaving? And what physical symptoms I've got? How do I want other people to treat me on a bad day? What do I want to do on a bad day? And then work accordingly. So sometimes those things would not be good for you. So let's say, for example, on a bad day, I just want to go to bed all day. Well, that's okay on the odd occasion, as long as going to bed means that you are going to sleep or you're relaxing more and what have you. But that can't always be your go-to, because it's not actually good for you. And this is where we have different parts of our brain kind of playing into this. So you will have your conscious mind, but you'll also have your unconscious mind and your ego and your higher self. So like a quadrant of different things. So your higher self would probably say, going to bed for the day is not beneficial for you. It's okay to catch up on some sleep by having a nap or having an early night for a few nights, but going to bed all day, you're going to wallow, you're going to overthink, you're going to catastrophize. So let's not do that. So the more curious you can get about your symptoms and which part of your brain they're coming from. So conscious mind is you as you are now, with your lived experiences, trying to be very logical about things. But sadly, you don't actually get to run the show. The bit that gets to run the show is your unconscious mind, which is your inner child. Lots of people call it the inner critic. I personally strongly dislike that term, because I think it gives it way too much kudos than it needs to. So if you have got something that is saying to you, you can't do that, basically that is your unconscious mind trying to keep you safe by making sure you don't do that thing, by making you doubt that you can do it in the first place. If you call it a critic, it's almost like they're an expert in that field. But if you call them your inner child, then actually completely less kudos at that point. It is just a child telling you that you can't do something. And if an 8-year-old walked up to you in the street and said, you can't do your job, you're rubbish at your job, the likelihood is that you probably wouldn't give that kid much time of the day. And that's the same for this section of you, this part of you that is saying, you can't do that. It's a child telling you that you can't do that. So reassure the child, firmly parent the child, but don't let that child like carry your behavior. Ego is when we're being judgmental about others to make ourselves feel a little bit better. And equally, we have to work out what part of that is helping us. So when you really get to grips with the fact that you have got all of these thoughts, all of these experiences, and this like cocktail of things to really stand in your way, you kind of get a better understanding that imposter syndrome is a real thing that really causes us difficulty, and that there are things that we can do, things that we can learn that will help us to move past that. So once you understand that lots of people feel this way, be open about how you're feeling, understand where your thoughts are coming from, and make decisions about what you want to do with them, the imposter syndrome doesn't happen anywhere near as much, because you are managing those inner feelings based on what you would prefer to experience instead. So I hope that that is helpful for you. I hope that you can see that there are different things that you can do and different things that you can start to work through in order to move past imposter syndrome, that you are not alone, that you are not isolated, but also that the thoughts that you are thinking, some of them just aren't true. Some of them are valid in, well, all your thoughts are always valid. They're valid in the fact that you feel and think them, but it doesn't mean that they are factual. You can go out and achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve, but you've got to understand where your inspiration from that would come from, where your motivation can be found. If you feel that you need more help with any of these things that I've spoken about today, please do let me know. I'm sure that I can help and give you some guidance at the very least, and potentially, we could look at working together as well to kind of move you past these experiences. So if you go to the notes in the YouTube show notes, there will be some information about how you can book a call with me, or how you can do things to kind of help yourself through other videos I've got, webinars that I do each month. The world is your oyster. So I hope that you found this helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Go and get curious about what you're experiencing and see if you can start to dilute imposter syndrome by acknowledging what it is for itself, which is unhelpful, not necessarily true, and just trying to keep you safe. Take care.